Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next hit of Inside the 22, where we check in with World Rugby's biggest names. And wow, we've got a monster one on the way across the next 25 minutes or so. A woman who has played in two World Cups with Ireland and has been crowned the 2017 World Rugby Women's Referee of the Year, all the way from Ireland. It is a very good morning to join Neville. How are you doing?
Hey Sean, how are you getting on?
Look, everything's okay down this side. We're kind of through the other side of COVID at the moment. We're looking at some rugby not long from now. How about at your end of the world? How close are you to picking up a whistle and going
Yeah,
again?
yeah, I'm delighted to hear that down your parts. I don't know how sure it is that we'll have much rugby here at this end of the world for quite a while. To be honest, it's just day by day and head down. And currently, we're getting to do a lot of work that we probably wouldn't be able to do if not for this pandemic. But as far as getting out in the pitch and running around, I don't know how long that will be. Hopefully sooner than later.
You must be going absolutely stir crazy. You're what, like 16 years in the game with your weekends taken care of, not having something to look forward to on a Saturday, I'm guessing, is driving you nuts.
It's funny. It's funny because you think yeah, when I used to play, we used to travel a lot. There was massive amount of commitment, which I was delighted to do. And then when I was asked to referee, I didn't think for one second that this would actually require an awful lot more commitment and travel which was involved. So it's pretty much every weekend we're abroad for the 15s and then obviously with the sevens. And I always thought, down the line when I do decide to hang up my boots, going from hero to zero, how will I cope? I won't be able to go from doing all this to doing absolutely nothing. But in a strange way, I've quite enjoyed the downtime, the weekends back, being able to do stuff at home that I probably wouldn't be able to do. But certainly, I'm missing the rugby. You miss your pals. You miss the challenges of being in the middle of the park and trying to manage 30 odd players. But no, I'm doing okay. I'm getting to spend time with the family from a distance. But
Well, at least
no,
I tell you what, maybe this forced refreshment will see you refereeing the game till you turn 65. Maybe that's the long term outcome for this, that we see you refereeing for another 30 odd years.
yeah. Good luck with that one, John.
Hey, before we
I
climb
mean,
into
it's
the
hard enough
refereeing
to keep
side,
up with the players as is, never mind in 20 years' time. And I'm sure a lot of the guys and girls will say that to you.
before we climb into your current standing in the game on the refereeing side of things, I wanted to go back to your playing days. 70 tests with Ireland, captain your country, two World Cups. Caught up with Heather Moyes the other day, who you would have played in the same World Cup as in both '06 and 2010 as
2010.
well. Let's go all the way back to the get-go and your time in the game in women's rugby and how things changed across your period with the boots on.
Yeah, it's changed an awful lot. I think the game has become faster, the players have become more powerful, and the game has evolved, full stop, whether it's in the men's game or the women's game. It's good to see that there's an awful lot more, I suppose, resources been put into the game. You see a further few teams become semi-professional. You would like to see the gap, I suppose, minimise that a little bit from those who are continuing to become more and more professional versus those who are struggling to meet that criteria. But I think the game has become an awful lot more professional. I remember when I first started, and while we gave it our all training sessions and pre-games and during the game, we certainly enjoyed ourselves off the pitch afterwards. And it's funny because we used to be the wooden spooners, like the wooden spoons, constantly from about 2002. It wasn't about beating the likes of England's and France's. It was about minimising the scoreline because they used to beat us at home at 60, 70 points to nothing. So it was about scoring a try or pulling off a move that we'd practiced for so long. But slowly but surely, that gap had decreased significantly through a certain couple of different things that happened. I remember we were going to France to play in the Six Nations. Not many people know this story now, mind. And we didn't have much resources. We just come under the umbrella of the IRFU, and there wasn't that much resources there for travel, etc. So if it meant that it was cheaper to go to France via England, we had to do that. So we had to get to Paris, rush hour traffic. We got into Charles de Gaulle. We had an hour to get into the city centre to get a 5-hour train to get to our destination the day before the match. Not only did we miss the train by that hour, we missed it by about 3 or 4 hours. So we ended up staying in the station, and this was back in 2011. We ended up staying in the train station, waited for an overnight train. We slept 3 bunk across from each other. We were in the train for 8 hours, arriving at 8 a.m. the next morning, got to the hotel, slept until 11, had our pre-match meal, and went out and played the game. And what I loved about that team and about the attitude of the team was we never spoke about it. You can't control the uncontrollable. So, I mean, we just had to get on with it. And funnily enough, we actually came the closest to beating France in France that day. And I put it down to just the attitudes, the pure strength of togetherness, having each other's backs and just getting on with, what we had to get on with. But from that moment on, I think, a lot happened and a lot more resources were made available. The team became more professional. We had strength and conditioning staff that came on board, coaching staff, and also an analyst who, instead of your typical, you knock on the ball, Sean, or you miss a tackle, I'll give you a slap in the back, next one. With the analysis, you sit down, follows you completely. There's no hiding, and if you've made a mistake or mistakes, you know exactly where you need to work on. You need to go away and work on it to fight for your place again. So yeah, a lot has happened since my playing days, particularly the lower end of the 2000s. But it's great to see.
And it's all headed in the right direction. I think that's the most important thing. And the part of the reason I asked that question is because I think there are some similarities in terms of the way that the women's game has grown in terms of the on-field action, and it's aligned with the way that you've become more and more prominent over time as well in the refereeing and officiating ranks. What made you jump? Why on earth did you, as someone who had been barking at referees for 70 test matches, make the decision to go to the other side? Why would you put yourself through it?
I'd never bark at a referee, Sean. No, look, I never wanted to referee. I never even contemplated in refereeing. And the reason why I hung up my boots a year before the following World Cup is, your priorities change in your life. And I'd met my now wife, and my body was taking a lot more time to recover, and I think after just my heart wasn't in it as much, and if your heart isn't in it as much anymore, you're not doing yourself any favors or your teammates. So I was ready to hang up the boots, and I was approached by Dave McHugh, ex-international referees, refed in 3 World Cups. And I knew of Dave, never met him, and he just rang me up and he said, would you be interested in refereeing? And I said, Dave, not a hope. Who wants to be a referee? There's a massive stigma attached. I think slowly but surely that is minimising. I think, the personalities of the referees are coming out a little bit more, and people are realising how difficult it is. And, he said, look, I think there's something there. I said, look, I'm after, just hanging up my boots here after giving it 11 years of dedication to the game. And you're coming back at me 2 weeks after I'm retired here to go back into it. And he said, look, I'll give you 8 months. And for some reason, I think you like a challenge, and this will certainly challenge you. And he nearly rang me back to the day. And I said, right, this guy means business. I just need to know what can be achieved, and because if I'm going to put myself into something, I'm going to give it 100%. So I needed to know what has been achieved, what can be achieved, and decide whether I want to go down this line and this career path. So I rang a guy up really high up in the rugby circles, a guy I really respected, and this guy was in his mid-50s. And I asked him one question. I said, do you think it's possible for a female to referee in the All-Ireland Men's League? So it's your top league in Ireland, your Gary Owens, Clontarfs, and No woman had reffed in it as of this point. And he said, Joy, not in my lifetime. And I said, right, okay, well, that's a fair, honest answer back. And we finished our conversation, and I picked up the phone to Dave, and I said, yeah, I'm in. So I think it's good to know, sometimes you need a challenge. And I
And
didn't know
and
for sure whether I'd.
how many years did you have the whistle in your hand before you achieved that privilege of refereeing in that competition?
It was about a year and a half, between a
Right,
year and a
so
half and
fairly quick
2 years.
escalation.
Fairly quick. But I think the biggest learning for me, and I'd love to share with you, is we'll always come across people, and that guy is still a friend to this day, and we've seen each other
Mm.
since, and there's been a smile and an embrace, and it's kind of the unspoken, me kind of smiling, going, "Yeah, you got that one wrong, kid." But I think the biggest kind of message to me was like, we are going to come across someone who tell you can't do something, and maybe it's because they think that they know better, or maybe they're jealous, or maybe they just don't think that you can do it. But you can be one or two people. You can be the person who takes that opinion for face value, and leave it there, or you can just put a good plan in place, and with a bit of luck, because I think a bit of luck, you need a bit of luck in your life to achieve things, and just, a good plan, and work hard, and why not?
What was the first game that you officiated and when, more importantly?
My first game was an under 14s friendly game in St. Munchin's, and I had never been so nervous. In all the years that I played the game, I was 10 times more nervous refereeing these kids. And I never forget, I was reffing the scrum, and I was talking so little that, I was barely shouting out the commands for the scrum. And one of the players said, but she's not talking. And I thought to myself, you're dead right. If I was playing right here, I'd be abusing that referee.
So it was a 14-year-old kids match that you looked after as your first game, but when was it, Joy? When did you take care of that
Oh,
one?
sorry. It was 2014, middle of 2014.
Wow. Okay. The reason I ask what year it was, because I'm trying to chart how rapid it was, your ascension to being named the 2017 World Rugby Women's Referee of the Year. Can you take me back to that night and run me through what must have been going through your mind? I watched the clip back. George Gregan's up on stage presenting you with the award. What did it? I hate to use the old question. What did it feel like to be up on that stage in front of the best in world rugby?
I was, it was an amazing memory. It was an amazing experience. My wife was with me, and my good friend Fiona Coughlin was there as well. But I think I wasn't really aware of the magnitude, how many, how worldwide, how many people had found out about it. Like when I initially had found out maybe a month prior, but I had thought that I'd won under the female category and not the overall, referee award.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think it was the whole weekend that, the night before I was in Paris, I was on the line for Luke Pierce, France, Japan in the November International. So that was an amazing experience. Simone and I flew then to Monaco. And wow, what a place. You've obviously been to Monaco.
Do you know what? I've not cracked it. I did World Rugby Awards
Oh,
after the World Cup last year in Japan. I'm told Monaco's at another level altogether.
oh, it's wow, it's mind blowing. But we really just enjoyed the whole evening. Like I had to fly out. Simona was flying out at 7 a.m. the next day, so we flew in at 4 p.m. The day of the event, and she flew out 7 a.m. and I flew out a couple of hours later to Dubai to ref in the Dubai Sevens World Series. So, no, look, it was amazing, and I just was blown away by the well wishers, and the support, especially from your own hometown. Like, the support that I got throughout the time that I was in Dubai. But when I got home, I was welcomed by my mum and my dad and Simona on the runway. As I came down the steps of the plane, I was never so, honestly, I've never been so mortified in my life with a camera in our faces. And I remember whispering to Simona, I said, "Why didn't you tell me I would have put some mascara on?" No, look, it was amazing. But the people say to me like, oh, how does it feel to be, particularly in 2017, how does it feel to be the best referee in the world? I'm far from the best referee in the world. I was very lucky. I got a lot of support from the RFU, from David McHugh, Dudley Phillips, Johnny Lacey, and they put things in place so that I could succeed. I'm massively honoured to referee in that 2017 World Cup. Not only that, but to referee in the final. What a cracker of a game that was. So look, a lot of things kind of went my way, but I'm very thankful, because if not for those, things going, I worked hard for it, but if things didn't go so well, I definitely wouldn't have been propelled into the male professional game as fast. A couple of months after that, that was my first European Challenge Cup game, and a few months after that was my first Pro 14. So.
But it's worth acknowledging that you've put yourself in that position because you are extremely good at what you do. I wonder, is there a cartel of top line referees like yourself that kind of hang out? I asked this question of Craig Joubert a couple of weeks back. I said, just Barnesy and Owens and Joubert, at their peak, were they hanging out? It was a yes. He said there's like a cartel where you kind of lean on each other. I'm guessing it must be the same in your ranks. I know that you cross over between both, but when you're doing the HSBC Sevens World Series, for example, who are you hanging out with? Who are you learning from? Who are you leaning on when times get tough?
Yeah, no, definitely. But I mean, when you're living in each other's pockets, you do become very close. It's in a way, the hardest thing for me when I first started refereeing was I didn't have my pals around me, my sisters, my best buddies who'd pick me up when times were tough. And then I went, my very first competition, sevens competition, was in Russia, and it's funny how you become so reliant on your manager, pass over the passport, be told to meet at a certain terminal at a certain time. Like I was lost in an airport that I'd been through 20 odd times. It's like you being the co-pilot and I'm driving, but you've no clue of how we got there because you weren't paying any attention. It's crazy,
Yeah.
But to be back in the sevens environment, you have your team back, you have your buddies back, and they're looking out for you, and you're looking out for them. And we go through the games together and analyze, and just give each other a couple of tips in order to make it easier for ourselves. But also, you want to perform as a group, because if one gets if one gets a bit of grief, it's representing everyone else. So you want to support each other.
Best bit of refereeing advice you've got on the way through. What's that?
Embrace your mistakes, because sometimes those mistakes, especially as a referee, if you make a big boo-boo and everyone knows it, it's a hard thing to do. You want that ground to open up and swallow you up. But if you don't analyze it afterwards, well, then you don't learn from the experience. You don't understand why didn't you have good concentration? You arrived late. Your position could have been better in the lead up to it. And when you embrace your mistakes and you learn the why and why they happen, for me, it minimizes it from happening again. And I've taken that through to my career, and certainly it's done me just. So I think, yeah.
No doubt when you were playing, you had players that you wanted to emulate, be like in some way, or that you loved a certain part of the way that they did their thing out in the middle. Who are some of the referees, if any, that you kind of look at and go, I kind of like the way that she or he does that particular role?
Male and female. Amy Perrott from Australia.
Yes.
She refereed in
Yep.
the 2014 World Cup final. She's just a really cool person, just a really nice person, good soul, and she's a very good referee. She had her baby Liam there a couple of years ago, and she was due to go to the 2017 World Cup, and I've no doubt that she would have been in a very good position to referee that second consecutive final. Yeah, definitely look up to her. I love how relaxed she is on the pitch. Wayne Barnes. I like the style of communication, how relaxed he is. I see some referees, and you can tell that they're trying to, come across, because Wayne refs so well in the communication that he uses. I can see some refs try to mimic that, but it's so natural. It's a very, you can't try to mimic someone else's style. You have to be yourself. Johnny Lacey, I've learned an awful lot from Johnny Lacey. He's now my current coach as well. So I've definitely, progressed in the last year due to his inputs and his tips. And Nigel, of course, I love Nigel's sense of humour on the pitch. And I think that's part of the reason why that stigma that's attached to refereeing has been minimised, because it's good to show your human element. Like I remember many times when I played and a ref would make if a ref made a mistake, and I'd you have
I
the
like
ref,
the way that you've totally reshaped the language around that now.
Red hat back on here. I need to be careful.
If a referee makes a mistake, yes.
If a ref made a mistake, two types of refs: the ones that just go, no, I'm right, and you have the ones that went, yeah, my bad, I made a mistake there. And I really respect that referee, because in the end of the day, we are human, and we're not going to make perfect, correct decisions in that 80 minutes. So I've always looked back at what have I liked as a player, what did I like in a referee, and I've tried to bring that into my own game, and to be more empathic with the players,
It seems to be working very well. You have what many would describe as the best seat in the house. You are up close and personal, in and amongst the 30 players doing their thing out in the middle. Who's the one player or the one performance that you've witnessed in that position and thought, oh my gosh, this person is on fire here. This is an insane performance.
Well, that's a good question. And I've been looking at a couple of your interviews, and you always put out these really difficult questions. So I wasn't prepared.
I feel like that's an easy one for you. I reckon you've got that nailed. I mean, you have looked after a World Cup final. You have been front and centre for some of the best on the planet. You must have one performance. You weren't in charge of Portia Woodman scoring 7 tries, were you, when she played against Hong Kong in that World Cup?
Yeah. Well, one that definitely comes to mind would be Sarah Goss. I just think that, and I suppose as a back rower, I have a lot of respect for back rowers, their work ethic, how dynamic and talented. I think she's an amazing player. I remember after that World Cup final, the yellow card went up, and apologised to her afterwards. I should never have given her that yellow card, but and it shows her true character and professionalism and goodwill afterwards, and she accepted it, and she said, not a bother, Joy. And I just think she's a phenomenal player, both on the 15s park and the 7s. But Portia Woodman, of course, I mean, there's only one Portia Woodman as well. She's been sorely lost or missed in the last couple of years due to her injuries. So hopefully she's on the way back. I think,
she's on her way back soon. I like your shout for Sarah Goss, for Sarah Harini now as well, because she is such a phenomenal player, and as you say, she just carries herself so terrifically well off the park as well as. Let me ask you this to round things out. You get one rugby do-over, and this has become one of my favourite questions because it can be a good or bad rugby do-over, Joy Neville. What would you take? It's essentially a mulligan. You can have the moment, a bad one rectified, or a good one relived. What would you take?
I think I would like to go back to the Grand Slam 2013.
Okay, why?
Why? Well, it was the first game that was broadcast live on Irish television. And in a way, I wished it was never broadcast live on Irish television. The sun was splitting the rocks the day before. Did you watch that by any chance?
No,
I doubt it.
but go on.
A long time ago. The sun was splitting the rocks the day before. And the day after, it was absolutely Baltic. It was freezing and it never stopped raining. 2 of the girls got pneumonia after this game. But I knew I was hanging up my boots after this game. And I think knowing that, if I enjoyed the moment, but if I could go back and enjoy it even that bit more, knowing it was my last game with the green jersey on, I'd like to do
there
that.
You go.
Because it was
you knew the answer all along.
Yeah, yeah, I did. But in a way, it kind of is. I suppose it represents what we've gone through from 2001, 2002. Like, I have 4 older brothers, and I'm the only girl in the house. My mum always wanted a baby girl who was the fifth child as a tomboy who so happened to marry a woman, so she was absolutely over the moon. And she actually nearly loves Simona more than she loves me. So but you know, people ask me how I survived in a male-dominated world. It's because I grew up with four older brothers, and like, you fight and survive, and they never treated me any different. And you know, I definitely have a lot to thank for them. But the only time that the household was female dominated was back in 2001, 2002, when we'd no funds, we weren't under the umbrella of the RFU. So there was any space, space in the floor and the couch, any spare beds, we'd have all the girls stay in the house whenever we were in Limerick, and they'd repay the favour whenever we were in Dublin and Belfast. So from when we had to pay for our own lunches, put each other up in our houses and floors, to 2013, after going through what we'd gone through, but still remained strong and support each other, and came through the other end to win that Grand Slam. It was a special time, and I'd love to relive that moment again.
The perfect way to wrap it up. You then made the jump into refereeing. You are one of the best on the planet, and I cannot wait to see you with a whistle back in your hand. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later. How much longer do we have to wait before we're out in the middle? Please tell me it's soon, Joy, please.
Soon, Sean, very soon.
Very soon. I'll tell you what, I'll shout you a lemonade at our next catch-up wherever it is around the world on the HSBC Sevens World Series. You stay well, you stay healthy, and we'll catch up with you real soon.
Excellent. Pleasure. Thanks, Sean.